I'm Colin from Electronix. We're going to show the new Nebulae. The Nebulae is a stereo granular sampler. It can take files from the USB drive, or it can have a live audio input, stereo audio input that records a 5-minute buffer of stereo audio. Right off the bat, we have the speed control. The speed can go up to 4 times as fast in the forward direction, and I can click it to get back to my original speed. I can also go here in the middle, slow it down, and I can go into reverse audio, and I can go 4 times as fast in the reverse direction as well. And again, I can click it to get back to my original speed of the sample.
So what is now, I think Nebula 1 was already in the market. What happens now, or what is new inside?
What is new? So what's new inside is we have the live stereo input, which I said records a 5-minute stereo buffer. It also has a completely revamped granular functionality, which now has the capability to do polyphonic granular. There's a window control for the amplitude envelopes of each grain, and it's going to have a bunch of separate instruments in it, as well as a spectral blur and a few kind of other types of looping capabilities. There's also just some more kind of convenient functionality. Like if I were to change the pitch, which I can go 2 octaves up or 3 octaves down, I can click the encoder to get back to the original pitch of the sample. If we go to the granular section here, I'm over here in the granular now. I just hold up the blend knob, and right now my overlap is up and my density is down. The density is essentially the grain rate. And so as I bring this up, the grains will get faster and faster. It goes now from several seconds between grains all the way up to audio rate, so it goes to 150 hertz. And the overlap control is essentially the size of each grain. I can go from very skinny grains, very small grains, into grains that are so large they actually overlap and become polyphonic. The window control here, as I said, was the amplitude envelopes for each grains. There are 6 different granular windows that you can blend between. All the classic granular windows are in there. I have a source button and input that'll change between the USB drive or the live audio buffer. So right now, if I pull blend up here and I hit the source button, I now have my chord going into the live audio input, and that is being processed live. So now once I bring this over, I can get into the granular section, which, here we actually record it really fast. There we go. So I'm going to record my buffer. I can bring this over. And now I have everything recorded in my buffer. You can change the pitch, change the speed, and I can play with all of the granular functionality as well on my live buffer. Switch back over to my samples just by hitting the source button. On top of all of those granular functions, I can also hold the record button down until everything turns purple, and now this becomes the random pitch deviation of all the grains. Pull this back up here. Get this back over to blend. So I have random pitch deviation of all of the grains, and I can do random rate of the grains, as well as random pan between the stereo field. Then if I bring those back down, I'm back to my normal granular setup.
So you make it also smaller, the new one?
No, it's actually still the same size. It's still 20 HP, and it's still going to be $429. Let me get this out here. Got some crazy stuff happening. And also another new feature that we have included is a pulse output that is going to emit a gate at the end of the sample. So it's going to be really exciting to be able to clock the rest of your modular from the sample itself, based on where the loop start and loop size.
And the amount of samples is depending of your SD card or on your...
What's that?
And the amount of samples is depending of the memory, or?
Yeah, it's dependent on the memory of the USB drive. get some CV out of there. And so yeah, it'll hold pretty much any type of file format right now except for MP3s. It will have the capability for MP3s in the future. It's going to be able to handle 96 kilohertz 24-bit stereo samples as well as mono samples, and we'll be shipping in March of 2018.
And beside this, you have also some other...
We also have the scanned, which, here, let me turn this down and get to the scanned here. So the scanned is an organic wavetable oscillator that uses what's called scanned synthesis. And scanned synthesis is a very underexplored synthesis method that was pioneered by Max Matthews in the 90s. So the way we think about it is a virtual string that's constantly being excited. So what's exciting this string is I have the hammer controls, and I have the shape of the hammer, which is essentially what I'm exciting the string with. If I bring it to the left, then maybe I'm exciting it with my fingers. If I bring it to the left, or to the right, I might be exciting it with a guitar pick. If we think about like how a string would move like on a surface. The position would be where I'm exciting the string. Am I closer to the neck? Am I closer to the bridge? The strength would be if I'm playing gently or I'm playing harsh, a little harder. The stiffness will constrict the amount of vibration that the virtual string is allowed to move. And the reason we're calling it an organic wavetable oscillator is I can move certain knobs, and it's going to continue to evolve for a very long time before it settles down into its own waveform.
So it's here not a very classical wavetable, but...
Not a classic wavetable oscillator at all. In fact, this is the first time that scanned synthesis has ever been implemented in hardware.
And how this works, there are wavetables inside, or can we put them inside? Or
the wavetables are all in there. There's no uploading of any kind of wavetables because it's all based on this virtual string that we're vibrating. The way I like to think about it is like you throw a pebble into a pool of water, and you get those ripple effects, right? And it takes a certain amount of time for those ripple effects to die out. That's kind of how this virtual string is moving. I can also pull strength down, stiffness up, get some noise, and I can pull dampening down. And then I can excite it with a button or a gate input, which I can grab right here. I can give it some pitch CV. So it's a very interesting take on just a wavetable oscillator and just the way that it's allowed to move, and the fact that you don't really need any VCAs or filters because it has a lot of internal modulation, just by moving the dampening knob and being able to have it organically move, and so it can kind of function as a classic synth voice as well.
And as third, you have also a third new module.
What's that?
What's new? Beside this?
What's beside this would be the Synapse, and the Synapse is a 4-channel crossfading switch mixer. So I have 4 channels of inputs. Each channel's got 2 inputs to 1 output, and I can crossfade with the knob or with CV. I can also, if we look, we have all the inputs are associated with their own individual outputs. Blue to blue, purple to purple, green to green, so on. I can reroute these channels to come out of any of the individual outputs just by moving the terminal knob back and forth, or with CV. I can also sequentially advance through the outputs with a gate signal, or randomly scatter them with the scatter input or the button. If I want them to go back to their original settings, I can just click the terminal knob and they all go back to their original channels. I can also set 8 different memory locations of the crossfader positions. Where right now I'm in the first memory location. I can set these crossfade positions, hit save. That just saved right there. You can go to the second memory location, do more crossfaded positions. Excuse me, go back there, save that one. And I can do that up to 8 times. And then I can either discretely switch between the different memory locations, instantaneously, or I can turn up the inertia knob and it'll slowly morph between the memory locations, making the crossfader positions slowly morph between one to the other. There's also 4 triangle wave LFOs that I can set the amplitude of with the crossfader knobs, hit a couple buttons, and now we can see I have 4 LFOs on all the crossfader positions. They're all 90 degrees out of phase, so you get a quadrature style crossfade modulation between all of the crossfaders, and the speed of the LFOs can be set with the inertia knob. And on top of that, the way that it's a mixer is that we have, as I said, the individual outputs for each channel that can be switched around, but channels 1 and 2 will always come out of the 1 and 2 output. Channels 3 and 4 will always come out of the 3 and 4 output, and all 4 channels will always come out of the summed output. So it's just a really fun way to be able to switch your patches and reroute your patches, especially in performance, without having to pull cables out.
So it's really a performance mixer.
Exactly.
With some advanced different features.
Exactly. Yes.
And this will be how much?
That'll be $339. This will come out in May. $429 for the Nebulae. It'll come out in March, and $349 for the Scan, which will come out in June.
Okay.
Oh, excuse me.
Thanks
so much. Yeah, of course.